Hello, welcome to Beth Roars, where we look at your favourite singers to find out what makes them them. This one is my first ever patron-only vote winner. Yay! Alright, here it is. It's a classic. It is a classic singer. It's Soundgarden. So here he is oozing and sliding all over these notes. Whoa! He's going through the vowels. He's not keeping it open like you would hear in a lot of musical theatre or opera singing, for example, where the vowels are really open. He's using those vowels to make a really kind of slinky, slidey sound, using stuff like vocal fry, which is this sound, to kind of make it sound, I guess, creepy. I don't know. It feels at the edge of emotion. Yeah, all around those vowels. Cry. It's so interesting because nothing is still. Often with different styles of singing, you're holding a mouth shape, but at the moment, cry. Everything is constantly moving, whether it's the shape of the vowel, the mouth shape, the shape of his tongue, or the way he's sliding off the notes. He's never hitting everything or anything dead on. See how it's so like... So you can hear how he starts on a lower note instead of time. He's time, goes from under and then scoops up. Now, he's starting to add little elements of vibrato and more held notes here, which are a little bit more sung. He is one of those people that is just not afraid to go for full expression and emotion yet. I'm sure actually with him it's not to do with any sort of training, but he has naturally great technique as well in a lot of ways, in varying parts of his career, but certainly at this point in his career his technique was pretty good. See? Now, it's interesting how he's switching between distortion and not. I want you to pay attention to his mouth shape. It's not long. Oh, it's not that sort of place. It's He's kind of tuning that tone so it has a little bit more nasality, forward placement and punch to it. Especially up in this higher range, it gives this impression of a mixed voice, even though it is very, very much towards head voice, but it gives that full spectrum of harmonics that really makes that sound punch through. And then he's sliding down into his chest voice. Now, it's kind of funny because people are like, how can people sing like this? This is completely impossible. But if you think of the noises that children make, if they're like, it's basically an extension of that. A kind of silly seagull noise is a fun way to find it. And then adding that vibrato on when you get a bit more tone behind it. Now, it sounds weird in my voice because I am a girl. If you didn't notice. It has so much weight and gravity behind it, even though it's so high. And that distortion just tinily touching the start of each word. Can you see that the wider vowels are often the ones where he's getting a bit more distortion, and the more narrow ones, like, ooh, are where he's not? That's just a little bit of a natural thing with shapes that you have to make to get that distorted sound. There are many ways to make distortion, but with this, it is all about getting a little bit more energy, a little bit more forward placement. It's all about keeping relaxed. If it hurts, you're doing it wrong. It's all about keeping that forward placement, keeping that energy within the sound, but not pushing out too much breath. It's such a fine balance. I love those runs off. It reminds me of Etta James. That guy's having a great time. Now, he is often mislabeled as a tenor because he sings so much up in this high head voice, twangy, punchy sort of power metal place a lot of the time. But actually, you can hear with the depth of sound he has and often those low notes that he goes down to, he is actually a baritone. Now, baritones doesn't mean that you can't sing high, especially up in your head voice. It can mean that you have a lower break point, so that transition between chest voice, which is hey, and head voice, woohoo, there's a little bit more of a that can be a little bit lower dependent on the baritone, but also you can learn to mix higher. So baritones can learn to sing high, but often have a heavier, warmer sound, and sometimes that's nice. I mean, it means he maintains a warmer sound up on these high notes. He really scooped up to every single note or slid off them or went through his vowels. Now he's up at this high point in his voice. He's built it up. Now it's open and he keeps that shape of his mouth right until the end. Everything's nice and relaxed. His jaw's nice and relaxed. His tongue's nice and relaxed. He doesn't close his mouth right until the end of the note. At this point, earlier on, he was allowing it to kind of morph in that lower, easier part of the voice. But this is something that's really important, and everyone does this, is close their mouth a little too early when they're trying to achieve those big high notes. So they'll be like, and then it kind of muffles the sound. But if you want that sound to ring out, just keep that mouth open. Even if you have a consonant on the end, say the words like cat, cat. That T should be right at the end, not cat. I wish he was singing a song about cats. I don't, actually. I think this is great. The slides. It's like crying. That feeling of crying is within the sound. It's so interesting that he's not really saying anything, but it feels like there's so much going on, and I think that that is a sign of a really great artist, when you get the feels from just a hey, you know? Oh, it's not like ooh, it's like ugh. Like how he messes around with those vowels and makes them less placed. It's not like ooh. People are often so scared to go for the kind of, I don't know, the dirty sounds, like breaking those sounds up, squashing them, squeezing them, ooh, like that instead of ooh, makes it feel so much more emotional. I love his vibrato, it's so distinctive. Ow! Oh.
Thank you! Have a very happy day! Enjoy yourself!
Intense, and classic. Ugh. Just leaving it there. It's such a sad story with him, and I feel like you can feel the pain in the way that he sings. There is a lot of angst and sadness there, and I always say this. I think that it is such a shame that these great artists have to go to those extreme emotional lengths to be able to find the genius in their voice. I think that it might be possible to do it without that, without having to be that sad. But I do think sometimes those sad places help. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.